I'm a corner? Jonathan Rose. I'm talking about just a basic zone defense. Where are you going to align? You're going to line up on number 1 to your side, right? So if it was a pro set, there you go. There's a right corner or left corner. There's a right corner. Where, if I didn't tell you anything, Charles Jackson, where's the safety going to align? If you're the left safety, what are you looking for?
I'm going to look for number 2.
Number 2 to your side.
Yep.
That puts you right there. Okay? What about the right safety? There is no number 2 to his side. So where would you align? Say again? Like a ghost tight end. There you go. There is no tight end because we're not going to line you over there, correct? Okay, so that puts you right where you are. So is a linebacker. Once a solid call is made, or flex call, or strong call, Courtney Love, if I'm a will linebacker, once I get that call and I know which side I'm going to line on, what do I have to identify right there? Huh? What are you going to line on? Who are you going to line on? Number 2 to your side. So, you two are basically aligned on this, basically off the same guy, right? What about the buck linebacker? There is no number 2 on his side. Right? So where's your number 2? Okay? So once again, that's your base alignment. Okay? So you'd be lined up right here in the bubble. You're always going to be lined on the bubble side. So there's your number 2. Where would you align there?
I would stay Pelini. Let's stay inside and split the distance. That's still 2 receivers right there?
Doesn't matter, does it? Does that matter who those guys are? There's a base roll. Where would you align? Number 2. Where's 2? Huh? Maybe. Maybe not. Your base roll is to line up on that guy. Then your technique will tell you where to line up, whether I line up head up or off of him, right? Doesn't make a shit who that guy is, who those guys are. If you get a call, your initial role is to go cover down, right? Same with the will linebacker, right? So if the buck's there and this guy's out here, where's the will going to line? Where's the safety going to line? To number 2. Then we can make our adjustments from there. Who's the mic going to line on, David Santos? Number 3. Where's 3 there? Okay. What if they line up like that? Once again, I'm just talking generalities. Okay? Talk to me. Who's that guy? Thomas Brown. No, what number?
4.
Huh?
4.
4 strong. So we count from outside in. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. He makes 4. What about that guy? He's 1. So if I'm this guy, who's your number 2?
This point, I was looking backside to that tight end.
But who's the closest guy to you?
What?
No, that guy means nothing to you, first of all. Okay? So who's your number 2? That guy is 4 strong, and he's 2 weak. So that's the guy you're aligning off of. Okay? And he's my initial guy that's my biggest concern, but that could change in a hurry, couldn't it? How? How can that change for you? If he comes that way, what is he? He becomes your number 2. What if he goes there and he comes here? Who's now your number 2? Right. Okay? But if we say align on that guy, A line on that offset, on that gut, that's my number 2. That's my initially where my eyes are, right? Okay, so what if they go, what if they line up like that? And it's a solid, it's Frisco and it's a solid right call. Where's the buck going to align? 2 which way? Where's the solid call? Solid right? So where's the buck going to align? Here? Where's the mic going to align? Where's the will going to align? Huh? Where's that? That guy right there, right? Any issues with that? Now let's go with dead side. Once again, I'm not calling a defense. I'm just saying it's flex right. Flex right. Where's the buck go? Where's your call? What's the mic say? Where would you make the call? Flex call. You make that call to the backside tight end? Look where the wide receivers are. So if you were to make a solid call, which way would you make that solid call? No, that's a strong call. If I was to say solid, what do we always make the solid call? To the slot or away from the slot? Okay, good. So that would be the solid side. So what's flex mean? Is that opposite of solid side? So there's the flex side. What if it was a strong call? What if it was a strong call? Where would that go? A strong call. What is strong? What defines strong? Huh?
It would still go to the right.
Why?
Because
there you go. So in this case, the strong side is the same as the flex side, right? So as a buck, you know that you're going to align number 2. So Courtney Love, without saying, if you're the will linebacker, you're going to line up on 2 away from the call, right? So who would that be? Who? There you go. So where would the mic be, Roach? Where would he line up on? Huh? There you go. Okay, Charles Jackson. You're going to line up on who? 2 to your side. So if you're the left safety, where would you initially align?
it'd be a lock call, so
No, I'm not saying. I didn't say what the defense is. Okay? It might not be a lock call. If I'm identifying the set. Where am I initially going to align? We know the corners are going to line up on 1 to their side, right? So if I didn't tell you shit else, what did we say? That if there was no number 2 on your side before you identified what you had to do, where would you align?
I would line up over the tight end.
There you go. Why? Because that would be my number 1, and there is no number 1, so that's where I would align. And if I'm this safety, where would I align? Number 2. So we're all covered down, right? Any questions about that? What if I open this guy up, Charles? It was the same thing. Same calls, same alignments. Where would you, the world linebacker's going to line up on his number 2. Where would you align, Charles?
Outside the tackle.
Why?
I just pretend like it's a tight end outside the tackle.
There you go. That's without knowing anything about what your responsibility is, right? That gets you in the vicinity, right? Because we're always going to basically line up in what kind of, in a cover 2 shell. What does that mean? So when you're playing cover two, once again, that's without, if I put it just like this, what is a cover two shell? Two high safeties, boom, boom. And if you were to play cover two out of this, any look, what do you always have to have? So you have a corner, let's say we were just a cover two shell, so you got two cover two corners and you got two half safeties. Okay? So you always have to have what? What do you have to have in cover two? What do you got to take care of? Yeah, so you always have to have a linebacker here, because those are my number twos. You got to have guys to carry those guys. And you got to have somebody relating to the back, because you always, whether it's 4 or 2 or any kind of zone, 4, 2, any combination of that, any kind of too high defense, you always have to have somebody related. You're going to have these guys who are in essence responsible for these guys. I know it's not necessarily exactly like that, but those guys got the wide receivers. So you have to have linebackers. So you got these safeties are doing something. They're playing quarters or half. So the linebackers always in a pro set are relating to the 3 core guys. What am I saying when I'm saying core guys? Yeah, in a 21 or 12, it's the U or the F, the Y, and the remaining back. That's what's going to happen in a pro set. So you always have to be covered down on 2, 3, and 2. So if I just take this guy over to here, and I line up in what we call a pair, there's going to be a linebacker on 2, a linebacker on 3, and a linebacker there. If I took this guy and put him out in empty, it's going to be a linebacker relating here, a linebacker relating here, and a linebacker relating there. That's always going to be your base alignment somehow, guys. Once you understand what solid is, what flex is, what strong is, we're always going to be covered down to start in this way. Okay? But that can only happen, guys, is if when the offense breaks the huddle, you go like this. You got to look around. You got to identify everything that's happening. You got to identify where the wide receivers are, first and foremost. That'll tell you where the solid side, the strong side, or the flex side is. Once again, what is the solid side? What the Mike calls it, to the what? To the Y. What's the strong side? Passing strength. What's the flex side? Away from the solid side. That's pretty simple, right? But how do you only get that done, guys? That's first and foremost. That has to happen every down. That has to happen to allow you to have success, to allow the D-line to have success, the linebackers, the secondary. All that identification has to happen first. And then the communication has to happen, and you got to get lined up. So you got to identify where everybody is. There are 5 skilled guys. Okay, you take the quarterback out of it. Okay, so there's always going to be a running back. In these personnels, 2 wide receivers, 2 back, a tight end, and 2 backs. For now, all intents and purposes, you got a tight end, you got 3 core guys, a tight end and 2 backs, or 2 tight ends in a back and 2 wide receivers. And you have to know where all of them are lined up on every single down. Or you have 0 chance, 0, of aligning right and making the right calls and decisions. And it's not very hard. The problem is a lot of times you guys haven't done that in high school. You haven't done that but there's no other way. You have to know where those guys are. And not just what's happening on you, who's on your side. You got to look around. You can't just live in your little world. You got to look around and say, okay, where are the threats? Because those are our number one threats, guys. Those are the guys that are going to be scoring touchdowns, carrying the ball, everything else. Even as a defensive lineman, your world will slow down. And things will become much easier for you if you get used to just, before you get in your stance, looking around and identifying where guys are. And it only takes a second. It takes a split second to look that way and this way. Identify where people are and know exactly where they're aligned. We all on the same page there. Does that seem pretty simple? Why do we struggle? Let me ask you this. Why do we struggle with that? Huh? We're not thinking enough. It's not thinking too much. Because if you're thinking too much, it means you're thinking about the wrong things. It means you're not thinking enough. It means you're not focused enough. And you're not putting yourself through the progression you have to have. Because the first thing you have to be able to do as a football player, and this is at the high school level, not as much at the high school level, but at the college level and the pro level, you better first and foremost be able to line up and make your calls. Because once you can do that, everything else will slow down for you, and you'll be a lot more relaxed because you know what to look for. But you have to have a progression you put yourself through. So what is that progression, guys? And I'm going to take you right through it because this is the order in which it happens. Okay? First, you have to know what? What's the first thing you have to know? No?
Personnel.
Which personnel? The offensive personnel. You need to know what the offensive personnel is. That has to happen. Okay? The second thing that has to happen. What's the next thing that happens? Because this is exactly how it comes off in a game or a practice or anything else. What's the next thing you need to know? Huh? Whose call? Yeah, you need to know our call. Because there are key words in there that mean something. It's amazing the amount of times, isn't it, guys, that people don't know the call? And we now live in a no-huddle environment. In a no-huddle, that's football now. A lot of times, shit's happening fast. But if you don't know our call, and you guys aren't communicating our call, trust me when I tell you, you guys know, you can all sit there and echo it over to each other. And once you get it, everybody starts echoing the call right across. Because you know what? That'll mean nothing to the offense. They won't. You could call the same thing 15 times in a row, and they're not going to know what it means. They're not going to know what strong, flex, Pittsburgh, they don't know what any of that stuff means. Maybe our guys do, and who gives a shit? We're not playing our guys, right? So you got to know what our call is. Within our call, what's the next thing that has to happen? Yeah, there's going to be an offensive formation. So what do we have to identify then? You have to identify what? Yeah. Where are the wide receivers? Where are they aligned? And in 21 or 12, is it a pro set or a slot set? Okay? Okay, once I know that, so when a pro set happens, once again, I'm starting at the beginning. So pro equals what? What constitutes a pro set?
Width on both sides.
Huh? No, you can't say width on both sides. Wide receivers are opposite each other. Slot is wide receivers, same side. Okay? So, when wide receivers are opposite, I don't even have to draw a formation right now. Okay? So the wide receivers are opposite each other. Where is a solid call going? To the Y. Where is a strong call going? To the Y. Where's a flex call going? No, a flex call. Away from the Y. Let's go through it again. I want you to picture this in your mind, Thomas. A solid call, the wide receivers are opposite each other. Okay? So we know that's happened. So once that happens, the thing that designates what happens, a solid call is going to go to who? Okay, where would a flex call go then? Opposite the Y. Where would a strong call go? To the Y. There you go. Now it's a slot. Now both wide receivers are together, Thomas. Where would a solid call go? Yes. Jonathan, tell me. What's that? If the wide receivers are together in 21 or 12, where would a solid call go? A solid call. To the Y. Why is that? Always opposite a slot. Where would a strong call go, Jonathan? Where would a flex call go? Which is where? To the same side as those receivers. So, fellas, you guys, is elementary as this may seem to you. You know, in my mind, I have a way I figure it out in knowing this system. That if I look up and I see a slot, I know that a flex call and a strong call, it's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You guys understand that? I just said it. So if wide receivers are to the same side and it's a slot, it doesn't matter whether I've called strong or flex. It's always, the call is going to go the same way. It's going to go to the slot side. The only time a strong and a flex call go to different sides is if it's what kind of set? A pro set. So once again, this is important that you guys understand this. If the wide receivers are opposite each other, Zaire, and we say, and we have to make a solid call, where is it going to? To which tight end? To the Y. If we make a flex call, where is it going? Away from the Y. And if we call strong, where is it going? To the Y. Okay, so let's break that down for a second. That if they line up in a pro set, what overrides everything? What sets the rest of the call? The tight end. Okay? That's important that we understand that. If we see it's a slot and the wide receivers are together, what sets the front? The Y or the passing strength? Huh? Somewhat. What's that? Yeah, well, I just said this. You can get out of a slot, you can have a strong flex or a solid call. Okay? And if it's a slot, I told you in slot, those two are the same. Right? So the most important thing is once I see it's a slot side, I know that the solid side call is going to go opposite of it. If it's strong or flex, it's going to go to it, to the slot. So what I'm saying is I have a way in my mind where how I see it. What's important is that you guys have a way that you can sit there and say, okay, how do I see it? How am I going to make sense of that in my head? Do I want to designate, do I always want to know where the Y is? Well, the first things first is I got to see where the wide receivers are. From there, it's, okay, the wide receivers are opposite each other. I'm just going to use the tight end. The tight end's going to tell me everything. That works to a certain extent in a slot, except the strong side's always the passing strength, right? So in my mind, I know I figured out, and when I designed the defense was, if it's a pro set, all you got to do is find what a tight end is. That's gonna tell you flex. It's going to tell you strong. It's going to tell you solid. Okay. But in a slot, once I see those two wide receivers are together, yeah, I know the solid side's opposite. But that slot's going to make the strong side and the flex side, it's the same. So if it's strong or flex, I automatically go to the slot. If it's a solid call, it goes away from the slot. So slot's a little bit different, right? Because if I sit there and say strong's going to go to the tight end side, it's not necessarily true, correct? It's how can you make sense of it in your mind? What's the easiest way for you? For me, I know I see slot. Flex and solid are what? Thomas? The same side?
Yeah.
Where's the solid side?
The side and the white side.
Which is where?
Away from it.
Away from the slot, period. In pro, what do you have to know?
You know that the both receivers are opposite.
Yeah? And then what? I got to know where who is.
I know where the white side end is.
Where the wide tight end is. Who's going to tell me where that wide tight end is? There you go. That seems pretty elementary, right? It is. I know it is to you, Deontay, because you've been through this a million times. Think about the amount of times, guys, that you young guys in this room have not been able to get lined up. So therefore, when you can't get lined up, do you have any chance of having success? No. So the faster you can take yourself through that first these first 1, 2, 3, that should happen every single play you're on the football field. What's the offensive personnel? What's our call? Boom. And within our call, you're going to know, do I listen for a solid call? Do I listen for a strong call? Do I listen for a flex call? It might be something else in there where Cat or Felix, but there are many of those, right? There's just a couple of those, and you have to know whether it's over or under. We'll get to that later on in the next couple weeks. Okay? Then, from there, we've done those three things. What do I do now if I'm a safety or an outside linebacker? Identify what? No? I haven't made any calls. And I've done this, and that. And then from this point, we've got a call. We've got a call from the Mike linebacker. What do I have to do then? How do I line up, Max? What do I tell you? What do you have to identify then? Yeah, you got to find number 2. So what do I got to do that? I go and I look outside, I see 1, and I count in 2. Period. I go get lined up. That way I'm not sitting there assuming this guy's my number 2, and then there's a guy walked out. Hey, get out there, walk out. That should already be done, because you're always going to count from outside in. Period. You're never going to look in there before you look out there. Ever. That'll never happen. Is a safety, is a linebacker, is a corner, I'm never going to line up on a down tight end and not see that guy lined up out there, because I'm always going to look there first, and then I'm going to look from there inside. It always starts with width, and I work inside. You'll never be wrong, ever. So if I'm the Mike, when I'm identifying a set, I look out there, I've made a solid right call. I count 1, 2, 3, boom. If I'm the left linebacker and there's a solid right call, I say 1, 2. If 2's out there, here I go. I'm the adjuster. If 2's in here, I'm aligned in the box. If I'm the Will, I know I'm going to be on the 3 technique side. If I'm the Buck, I know I'm going to be on the bubble side. If I'm a zone dog end, I'm always going to look out first and count from inside and go and count to the inside. It's never going to be here, and I'm going to get surprised that there's another guy out there, and this is my number 2. I'm never going to assume that I have no width. I'm going to look outside of me first. If I have any coverage responsibility, And I know that I'm going to be Bronco on 2, curl flat on 2, carry on 2. My count's always going to be outside first and work in. That way, everybody on our defense is going to get lined up. We're all going to identify the same things, and we're always going to be lined up correctly. Seems easy, doesn't it? But you have to, in your mind, you have to put yourself through that progression every single play. Every single play. You got to become like a robot as far as getting to that point, because once you get to that point, you're going to know where everything is, and then you're going to be able to apply your roles. But you can't apply your roles until you've gone through that. And I know I've spent a lot of time on this. Shiante, you've been through this a million times. Jason, you've heard this a million times. And you think, are you shocked? Not shocked, but are you surprised at the amount of uncertainty that these guys had? A little bit, right? To Sarah said that's our fault. But it's also your fault too. When we talk about these things, you have to understand what we're saying. You got to ask questions if you don't understand it. Because if you take to heart what I said, you're going to get lined up. And all the other things we talk about, your techniques, your fundamentals, your rules, that cannot happen. You cannot apply those rules. You can't do those things if you don't understand how to get lined up correctly. Simple as this. If Toby, the amount of time, and Vincent, you're a young guy. You guys, some of you guys, Curry, you're a young guy. Greg, Avery, that you have keywords that mean something to you. In your case, it's a solid, and when is it a solid call? When is it a flex call? When is it a strong call? But you want to know right now that if I'm a left 3 technique and I hear strong right, I'm going to line up as what? You're going to line up as a 3 or a nose? Huh? You're on the left side and they say strong right. 3. So if I'm on the D line, if I'm on the right side and they say stronger flex to my side, it's going to be, we're going to start out, that's the bubble side. That's the shade 5 side. The other side's a 3 technique 6 side. Or 3 technique 5, depending if there's a tight end over there. If we hear a solid call, if it's solid, that means it's a East Coast city, Vincent. And you're on the left side. You're the left, are you playing left or right? Left? So you're on the left side and they say solid left. What are you going to play, a 3 or a shade? 3. Pretty simple, right? But it's got to be like clockwork for you. It's got to happen really fast. Okay, now we've aligned right. Now we've gotten lined up. And this is the part that you have to understand. Okay? Everybody, from the corners to from the front to back, from the D-line to the middle of our defense, the linebackers to the back end, you're all going to have an initial key. What is an initial key? Now, when we say that, when I say you have your initial key, what does that mean? That's something that's going to do what for me? I mean, this is really important that you guys understand this. And to a certain extent, at times, corners, you are exempt from this a little bit. Because sometimes you guys are just basically lined up on your guy and let's play ball. But if you are a guy who's in the run fit, and what does that mean? What does in the run fit mean? Let's just draw, once again, let's draw a pro set, a 2-back set. And I'm just going to put us, for this matter, in an over front. Okay? What always has to happen? In our defense, you have, whether it's an under front or over front, so here we have a 3 technique, we have a 6, we have a shade, and we have a 5. What do we always have in our defense? We always have 2 lever players and 1 spill player. And on top of that, you have 1 force player. Okay? What does it mean to be a lever player? Huh? Everything? Okay. That's right to a certain extent. What the most important thing that you understand here? Okay, when we say lever, and that happens mainly in these personnels, okay, that we are lever off of who? The fullback. No, you just said number 2. It's lever off of the fullback or the adjuster who is the U. Because that's the same guy in 12. Okay? Why? Because that guy to that side, to wherever that guy's lined up, that guy creates the extra gap for us. That guy tells us how to adjust. Okay? Why is that, Courtney? Because wherever that guy goes, let's say that guy's in this gap, so he's a 3, he's playing the B gap, right? He's playing the C, he's playing the A, he's playing the C gap. So you just say, this buck linebacker's got the B gap, right, Courtney? And the Mike linebacker's got the A gap. The Will linebacker's playing the D gap, right? Right? What happens when you bring the fullback here or here? What happens? Creates an extra gap. And you can't, so this Will linebacker who's playing this D gap, he can't do that and that at the same time, can he? He can't play both of those. So, what happens? You got to have who? Somebody else involved, right? Where are we going to get that extra somebody? From the secondary, correct? Okay, so we talked about, so you better know where so we say lever. What that means is this. We are playing lever off the fullback. So if that guy goes there, and I'm a lever player, I'm outside of that guy. Okay, so if he comes inside, create another gap. I'm outside arm free. Okay? What if so I am lever off of the fullback or the adjuster on any run to me, right? Correct? What does it mean if you get run away from you? Huh? So are you a fast flow player or a slow player? Slow, because you can't overrun the ball, right? So lever player means you're going to lever, run to, your cutback, run away. Right? What does it mean to be a spill player? Huh? Inside the fullback where? So run comes, once again, I like to talk about it if I get run to me, and then I get run away from me. So if I get run to me, what am I going to do? Run to. So I'm going to play which arm free? Inside arm free. I'm going to bounce it. What about run away? What? Fast flow. You don't have to worry about anything, do you? You go fast as you want, and you just keep track of that spill key. You just go as fast as heck, right? You don't have to wait. You don't have to do anything else. You go. Is that correct? That's right, because you know you got what? If I'm a spill player, what do you know? So when I'm running away, what do I know? I got a cutback player behind me. That's always going to be the case. If I'm a force player, what does that mean? Everything is inside of you. Off of the initial alignment? Huh? Any run to you. All I'm saying is, I've seen guys align as a force player right here. and the ball get outside of them. Is that, so I'm saying is it okay? If they line up like that, I'm going to keep everything inside of me. Does that mean off of the initial alignment? Or what if somebody else comes?
What you mean?
Are you going to turn it back there, or is it okay to let that guy out, let it outside of you now?
You're always outside of that.
You're always outside of everything. So to do that is a force player. What's the most important thing to do if I'm a force player? Knowing, so let's say this guy blocks down and I got stuff coming at me. What is the most important thing to do as a force player? To do what? Keep your outside arm. How's the only way you're going to keep your outside arm free? Keep my shoulders square to the line. Let me say that again. If anything, I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep my inside foot up, and I'm going to keep my shoulders square. Right, Zaire? Because if I do this, and I do this, what happens now? Do I have any chance? A lot of guys think that when I turn my shoulders in, I can keep everything in here. But what happens there? You expose what? Your outside shoulder. So anytime I'm a force player, what am I always going to do? Even if I'm lined up a little bit tilted inside, if I got things coming at me, what am I going to do? I'm going to square and be in this position. I'm always going to have this foot in the ground. And I'm going to keep my shoulders square to the line of scrimmage. That'll never change. That's the number one part of my technique if I'm a force player. I am never going to give my shoulders to a blocker inside. It'll never happen. Okay? So we know that we got two lever players, a spill player, a force player. And we know that we have to have the secondary involved, right? So, how do you know if you're involved, Charles? In our defense, we're going to talk about weak side rotation, or flex side rotation, or solid side rotation. Right? What does that mean? What does it mean to have flex side rotation? Let me ask a linebacker that. Like, I'll give you, for instance, like, Camden is flex side rotation. What does that mean?
So someone's coming down away from the
It means we are getting our extra player, our safety, or our corner from the flex side of the defense. If I say solid side rotation, it means it's going to the Y. If I say strong right side rotation, it's going to the passing strength. It's coming from the passing strength. Okay? That'll never change. So let me ask you this, Charles. What is Pittsburgh? Is that solid side rotation or flex side rotation? Left 3 technique. I'm a right 3 technique. I'm a left end. I'm a buck linebacker. You can just do that just by drawing formations. Draw formations and make the calls. Make the calls yourself. Because you know what, fellas? As it happens, it'll make sense to you and shit will slow down for you. You'll say, oh, okay, I get it. And then you're not just completely relying on the mic. You're still going to let him make the call, but you'll be able to make the calls yourself. But the last thing I want to say is this. You're always going to have an initial key. A lever key, a number 2, a tight end, whatever. But understand this. That initial key. So if you are part of the run fit, you are a linebacker, you're a defensive lineman, or you are a safety or a corner who's part of the run fit, you're always going to have an initial key, and that initial key only tells you where to transfer your eyes. Let me say that again. That is not who you're going to look at the rest of the down. In fact, your initial key is just going to take you through about your first step, your initial steps during the play. The next thing that happens, that initial key tells me where do I take my eyes. And that has to happen in a split second every single play. And that's what has to happen. So for a D lineman, you're going to have your initial target, and that initial target's going to tell me, do I stay with it, or do I transfer my eyes? Is it the second level guy, as a linebacker, You're going to have an initial key, and that initial key, all it does is tell me where do I take my eyes, and the same with the, so if I'm a safety and I'm playing cover 4, I'm going to read number 2 that tells me where to take my eyes. If I'm a corner and I'm playing cloud, I'm going to see 2 or the back, and that's going to tell me where to take my eyes. But until I see those things, until I understand that, but what's happening with us guys is we are looking at our initial keys, and let me say this too, lastly. The quarterback is never your key, your initial key. You should only ever feel what the quarterback's doing. You should never, ever, ever be looking at the quarterback. When the play starts, that should never be where your eyes are. And if they aren't, you have zero chance of having success. And your quarterback will never be your secondary key. He'll never be your initial key. He'll never be your secondary key. You're always just going to feel what the quarterback's doing, but you're never going to have your eyes on him. Let me say that again, because this has got guys cut at the pro level. This has ruined guys' careers at the college level and the high school level, is that everybody thinks the way to do it is stare at the quarterback. And it's the worst thing that you could possibly do. You have no chance of having success as a defensive football player if you're looking at the quarterback. You're going to have an initial key, and you're going to have that initial key is going to tell you where to transfer your eyes to. If we stop there, if you guys understand what we talked about today, and put yourself in, have a really good understanding. And if you don't understand it, fellas, I'm here all week up until we'll get together at 3:15 on Wednesday. If you don't have a full, clear understanding of what I talked to up to this point, as remedial as I think it is, or as you might think it is, if you have any questions about it, come ask me. And we'll get that straightened out, because until you understand that, you're not ready to move on. So, fair enough? All right, gentlemen. Appreciate your time, guys.